Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. I start to have quite some research organizations that have passed through the grant, and it is always very interesting to dig into how they are working. It also means that I can start to move into some more specific topics instead of a general conversation about how they work with EU funding. One of my old colleagues from P&O now works for the French public research organization INRAE. This organization has chosen to develop sort of an internal grants consultancy unit. Not private in the sense that they are on the open market, but they are being hired, so to say, by some of the many institutes under the INRAE umbrella. I wanted to get an idea of how that setup works in all practicality, and open up the window a little bit and get a peek view into one of the largest R&D organizations in Europe. I managed to get 3 nice INRAE people on board to share the project's idea from the research lab to the consultant and towards project implementation. Johan Lecuona, Louise Vast and Karine Latouche shared these insights with you all and me. It became a long talk, and therefore it has been divided into 2 episodes. In the first half, we dig into the specific organizational structure of INRAE in relation to EU R&D funding acquisitions, and we go through step by step the path from the idea pops up in the research team and to the submission of a proposal, and eventual project implementation, of course. Next week, the panel unfolds a concrete project as an example of the approach. Please enjoy. Grant. I am so lucky to have a research team, research organization on board. I have a panel today, and but as most people know, especially with an experience, there's no such thing as luck. Luck is based on persistence, and just a little bit of being patient also. So here I've been throughout since I started this podcast, I've been following and trying to put a hook in a lot of research organizations, because there's a lot of quality for you listeners to investigate and hear how different research organizations they work. So it's been a while since I reached out to an old colleague of mine from P&O that works with the organization we're going to talk about today. I already talked way too much when you have 3 people in the same virtual room. Johan, Louise, Karine, welcome.
Thank you, Niels.
Hello.
Hello, Niels.
So nice to have you on board, and we've been having several meetings, both bilateral and pre-meetings together, and so on. But without going into our preparations, let's just first have and Johan, ladies first. Karine, could you shortly say a few words about yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. So I am Karine Latouche from INRAE. I am a senior researcher and I'm working in international trade. So from the beginning of my career, I was involved in several European projects from different frameworks. And it's the first time I am coordinating European project. It started in 2020 and it will end next year. And it's my first experience as coordinator.
Looking forward to talk a little bit about that later. Thanks for this. Louise?
Yeah, so I'm Louise Vast. I'm a European officer at INRAE, more specifically in the headquarters of INRAE. I joined a smaller institution a few years ago, which was called IRSTEA, and the smaller institution merged with INRAE in 2020. So I'm a European officer. If I put in both experiences together. I'm a European officer since December 2015, so it's start to be quite a long time now. And today I'm working in a department which is dedicated to support research team at INRAE on 3 different aspects. The first aspect is the partnership with higher education actors. The second one is relationship with regional and local actors. And the third one is the European policy of the organization. And I am working in this team. And then my job is to put in motion with my colleague the European ambition of the organization and to support as much as we can people like Karin who try to get involved in European programs.
Thank you. That was nice background there. So finally, the guy, Johan.
Thanks. So I'm Johan Lecuona. I was trained as an agronomist, and I moved to EU funding in 2009. So I've been working with EU projects for INRAE for 40 years now. First with infrastructure FP7 project. This kind of project that do not exist anymore on the same format, which was offering transnational access to users of research infrastructures. So quite a difficult project I had to manage at that time. And then I moved to more classical research projects and collaborative modes in FP7, then in Horizon 2020, and now in Horizon Europe. So I have 2 main activities, supporting the researchers in building project proposals to answer the call for projects from the European Commission. And when successful, the other main activity I have the opportunity to have is to manage these projects and to still support the coordinators, but in the implementation phase of these European projects.
As just we will dig into this in a moment. But so the transfer unit, is that you and Louise?
So I'm working at INRAE, and the transfer unit, INRAE Transfer, is how can I say that?
A subsidiary?
It's an independent unit because it's work like a subsidiary of INRAE. It's an in-house subsidiary.
Let's, because we will come and dig into this as we move on in this talk. So this talk today, just to enlighten the listeners a little bit more. So it's not just going to be a talk about how you work as an organization with EU funding. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, in a little bit more detail. We're going to take so the concept for the episode is from lab to consultant, so to say. So what happens from the process when an idea is growing in a research team or in a researcher in the work they do, and what happens from there until eventually it is moved into being a proposal from your organizations as to how you work with this. And I have had other universities on board, but we haven't sort of in the theme, so to say, of the episode, we haven't dug this way into it. So that's going to be the theme of today. Now, first, we need to have a fly-in on the organization, on INRAE, yeah? So could you share, and I don't know who wants to open up that floor, but we need to have some insights into your key R&D strengths, for instance, and the size of the organization. So can you start? I don't know who will pick that up.
Yeah, maybe I can start. Maybe the easiest way to start is to develop the complete name of INRAE, which is the French National Research Institute for Agriculture, Food and the Environment. And it's important to start by this because we can already see that with these three keywords, agriculture, food and environment, that our research team are covering quite a wide range of thematic areas and have to tackle lots of challenges. And to do that, they are doing both fundamental and applied research. They are doing it with quite a cross-disciplinary approach. They are doing it with quite a lot of different partners, from farmers to industrial group, NGOs and SMEs and so on. And all of this is reflected on the organization, because in the end we have about 2,050 research units. Research
That's a lot.
It's quite a lot, yes. And it's organized in 14 scientific departments and 18 regional centers. So INRAE is quite big because the challenges behind these three keywords are quite numerous.
I was not aware of that it was so large, but of course France it's one of the largest countries of Europe, so of course you would it's a different story when you have Norwegian universities and so on. So of course, I had a question on the tip of my tongue, but it's gone. It will come back if it was important. Oh yeah, so within those three core areas, agriculture, food, and aquaculture, do you have specific strengths, or is it generic? But I can perceive the answer already because you're so large, so you almost cover everything.
Yeah, and that's why it can be quite complicated to explain on what INRAE is working, because you have people working on floods, and it can be a problem with snow or water, or a lack of water, or everything like that. It could be people working on the loss of biodiversity. It could be on agroecological solution, or food security and nutrition. So you have a lot of different things behind all the research team.
So let's just say that your core areas, agriculture, food, and agriculture, and within those you have many key strengths, given of course the size of the organization. How's the organization built up? Now, you mentioned a little bit broadly speaking that you have research centers, and then you have also some decentralized and so on. But is there anything else to the organizational build up that is good to know in a talk like this?
Maybe I can say we have some specificities. For example, in our headquarters, we have two, what I think are quite unique departments. We have a department working on open science, and because it's really something really important at INRAE, and we wanted, when INRAE was really created in 2020, we really wanted to put forces to develop open science. And the second quite unique department is a department dedicated to collective expertise and support to the policy process. And I think it's not usual to have this kind of structure inside a research organization. What can I say about organization?
Okay.
Yeah, it's enough.
It's okay. Yeah. It's just sort of a fly-in, because it's not the main thing that we will talk about. It's just to get an idea. So concerning, if we slowly move into the area of this podcast, EU R&D funding, the key targets and the strategic goals. I have two sub-bullets here, but for the key, so do you have? For a large organization, right? So if you have smaller universities, it's a little easier to set out a strategic outline and then what kind of goals you would need. But do you have anything like this? Do you have formulated from the university, from the research organization's political level, so to say? Is there some sort of articulated key targets on the EU funding involvement, or is it decided regionally and in each organization what you want to do with it?
Well, I can say that for the EU level, our ambition is really to continue to be a major player on our thematic. And to do that, we are working on 3 different pillars. We try to do some I can call lobbying activities. So we really try to be in a continuous dialogue with European institutions and European partners to push our scientific priorities, of course, because we think it's important, especially right now in the current context. The second pillar is how we try to convince a research team, and it's all the work I think Karin will talk about, but how we try to convince them how it's important really to get involved in European programs, not only for visibility, but also because with European projects you can have access to more data, you can be confronted to new case studies, have a new approach and new methodologies, and so on and so on. So how it is important even for the art of their science. And the third pillar is in the follow-up of this previous one is how we can put all our forces to support the research team who are convinced that they need to do something at the EU level. And maybe I can say our main ambition is really to try to have a collective motivation towards Europe. Of course, we try to put every year some objective regarding the number of European projects we want to have, and especially for the Horizon Europe program. But in the end, we really want to have people not only in European projects, but also in expert groups, or people get involved when it comes to define strategic and strategic agendas for research and innovation priorities. So we do not calculate European involvement only with projects, but we are trying to look at the big picture and to look at everything we can do to be active in the EU.
What does that include besides projects? That industrial collaboration, for instance, of bilateral other universities in other countries, or university networks, or how?
When it comes to international collaboration, we working a lot with, for example, memorandum of understanding and bilateral cooperation. But it's mostly this kind of approach. It's mostly outside Europe, because within the EU frontier, we really try to use the EU instrument and programs like projects, like the cost actions and everything, to make our cooperation with our European partners alive. So it's more multilateral cooperation. We have some strong bilateral cooperation, like, for example, we are a strong partner of Wageningen University. But I talk about them, but it could be some other. So we have some very strong relationships like that. But in the end, I think all our European cooperation is done through the EU instruments and programs.
It helps, right? It's a good facilitator, the EU programs, because there's of course a carrot in the end, but on the way to that you get into to good strong collaborations on the way. So it's why it's so important for especially research organizations like yours.
Yes.
In relation to, I recently had NTNU in the podcast studio, and there when we talked about how they work with the strategic parts of what to go for, so to say. My best guess is that your research teams and at the decentralized level would have it at the same way. So you have the ones when calls come out, say these ones we go for, and we will want to coordinate within this and this and this. Here in this category, we would try to see if we can get on board as a partner for work package, maybe work package lead. And then as for the rest, if we get contacted, it might come, so you have sort of 3 categories of calls of importance, so to say. And my best guess is the same thing for you guys.
Yeah, and of course we are looking a lot at the Horizon Europe program, because it's really the backbone of the EU policy for research and innovation. But actually, when I'm looking at all the activities we are using, I think, every instrument developed by the EU. For example, at the regional site, we are doing a lot of INRAE projects who are financed by the regional funding coming from the cohesion policy of the EU.
Mm-hmm.
We are using, I think actually every type of instrument we are using, also funding created by the DGs, for example, civil mechanism of the DG ECO, or I don't find
this opens up actually a key element of a question for concerning your organization. So for everybody to understand, INRAE, is that a public research organization or is it a private research organization?
It's a public one. I should have started by that. Yeah.
Then because that triggers the question I have for the INRAE and some of these research, this kind of funding. That surprises me. That because normally universities find these funding schemes very difficult to approach because the funding rate is low. It's rough on public organizations, and they would normally only, if you have municipalities or regions, public administrators, when they do these things, because that's where INRAE is often. The target group is local administrative collaboration, right? They find it hard, as normally when they do it with elements where they should have done it anyways. Yeah, so they already have money for it. They don't have to allocate extra money for it. So so that's interesting that you work with that.
That's why we prefer Horizon Europe.
Indeed.
But I think it's a different type of project, because maybe it's something we will talk about later, but Horizon Europe and Edge 2020 before, it's quite a big project, and it's quite difficult to handle them and to respond to all the expectations of the EU. So it could be quite difficult for a researcher who start at the EU level to start by this kind of project.
Yeah.
The INRAE project is maybe less interesting regarding the funding, maybe more complex in the end in the management of the project, but it's smaller. It's at the local level, so you know the partner with you are going to work with, and it's on your own field, if I can say that. For example, we have a center in Grenoble, near to Italy and Switzerland, and there is an INRAE program here, and they know the partner, they know the mountains on which they are working, they know the local actors. So for them, Interreg is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's also been a part of a discussion or talk that I had with other researchers in earlier episodes on this topic, because of course Horizon Europe is the big elephant on the savannah. But if you put in a lot of effort, it's an effort that requires, if you coordinate, for instance, like the project we will talk about later on in this episode. If you coordinate, it's a 5-6 month effort. And you still don't. There's the success rates for it, the calculated success rates. It's still something you say. It's an investment, right? We'll see if it comes back home. As for some of these other funding schemes, you might only have 50% funded, for instance, but it's much more accessible. So the effort that you have to put into, you save on that investment, so to say, from the beneficiary side when you prepare the proposal, and then you can make a calculated risk. Okay, we actually get 50% covered for a period of what, also shorter sometimes, right? 2 years or something like this.
And
So yeah.
That's why, for example, Johan is working only on Horizon Europe project, so I guess he will talk about it. But we really put effort because he had a cost to organize all the support we try to provide to the research team. We really put this effort on the Horizon Europe project. We are not using INRAE Transfert for Interreg projects because it's not worth it.
Yeah. But let's thanks. If there's are there anything else in related to INRAE as a fly-in that we need to cover? Is that for me? I think
it's quite a lot already.
Yeah, so let's. But it's in this podcast you have the possibility to share, right? A little bit more than just.
Maybe something to add up is that
yes, please.
INRAE, even if it's a very big public research institute, it's not working alone. Many of the research units are actually joint research units with other research institutes and other higher education institutions like universities or engineering schools that like we have in the academic system in France. So there are some research units that are INRAE only, but most of them have staff from INRAE, but also from the universities or engineering schools or other research institutes like CNRS or INSEM, for example.
Is that a particular French way of organizing in the research academic world?
I think so.
It's typically French, but we can find some similar organizations. I've seen it, for example, in Spain.
But they're also down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the academic tradition in northwestern Europe, where I'm from. You wouldn't really see this, not as a normal or as a general, like normal thing. It would be sometimes you have professors or academic that works. Maybe they have an attachment to another research organization, but normally they would have their key work in one academic organization and then be guest lecturer at another place sometimes. So it's not okay. That's interesting. Let's move on to talking a little bit about. Going to talk a little bit about organization now, and the reason why we're going to do that is we have to qualify why we're doing it like this, because it leads up to the topic of this episode. My old colleague back from P&O, I didn't work with her in the same office, but we were in the same organization, large-wise. It's a big organization, P&O. Emmanuel. She came to you. And then when I started doing this podcast, I don't remember if she reached out or if I reached out. Anyways, we got connected, and I thought, well, shouldn't we? Is there something about the organization you work for now that that could be a topic of a podcast episode? And she said, yes, sure. Because I work, and then I asked a little bit more into how, where she was working in the organization. That we have this office, this setup where we work almost as a on a consultancy basis for the research teams throughout the research organization. So that led to this, So this was an interesting opener, so to say, because that could be an interesting topic to dig into, how you have arranged yourself INRAE in this, to sort of how does that work, and then take a practical example. So what we're going to talk about in this sub bullet is how that relationship is built up. So you have the organization itself, and then you have this INRAE Transfert, and how how the setup is. So it's there's no reason for me to talk more about this now, because I'm going to let you unfold that for the listeners and me. So and who is that? Is that you, Johan, or who will?
I can try to explain what INRAE Transfer is, because it's not just about EU projects. But I'm taking this opportunity to say that Emmanuel is saying hello to you. She knows we are with you recording this podcast episode. So she said, don't forget to say hello to Nils on my behalf.
Thanks. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like her a lot.
I know she's my boss. So a little bit maybe of history of INRAE Transfer. Mm-hmm. So it was founded in year 2000 as a subsidiary of INRAE that was called INRAE at that time. It was not merged with IRSTEA at that time. So in year 2000, INRAE Transfer was founded as a private company under French law, but as a subsidiary already at that time of the Public Research Institute INRAE. Yeah. And the purpose initially was to license the intellectual property of INRAE and to manage mostly the patent portfolio of INRAE.
Okay, so a technology transfer organization, so to say.
Yeah, hence the name.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, when INRAE wanted to strengthen its EU policy and its participation and particularly coordination of EU projects, which were, so at that time, I think we were under framework program number 6, I guess. There were these very big integrating projects.
Yeah.
That were very, very big and that required professional project management teams that were not existing for EU projects within INRAE. So the top management of the institute decided to add up this EU project department to the subsidiary, and then was created in year 2004 the EU project department within INRAE Transfer. And since that time we have been working as an in-house consulting service. So we are not INRAE staff, we are INRAE Transfer staff. So private law contracts. We are not civil servants, contrary to INRAE staff. But as our company is fully owned by INRAE, we are really integrated to the INRAE ecosystem and part of it, and we are acting as colleagues, and we are using all the INRAE resources. And for what I'm concerned, I'm located within INRAE premises, for example.
Okay, so you are in a public organization, but with a private salary.
Not really. We have much our internal processes and organization is very much inspired from our unique shareholder,
Of course.
which is INRAE. So it's private in terms of legal organization, but all the rest is very much copy paste from INRAE, I would say.
Yeah. But it's still the organization is still functioning also as technology transfer patent.
Yeah. The historic division of INRAE Transfer still is technology transfer.
Mm-hmm.
They work a lot also with project engineering, but not EU projects. And many more departments were added to INRAE Transfer since that time.
Mm-hmm.
As long as INRAE needed to have a foot within the economic world, I would say, and the private world, it's using our company for that.
So it's also do you also deal with industrial collaboration, industry academic?
Yes, other departments of INRAE Transfer do, and some of them were even built to become self-sufficient organizations with industrial partnerships. So there were some French funding that were initiating some industrial demonstrators that have 10, 15 years funding for the beginning, and they need to reach self-sufficiency with, for example, business models with industry research and innovation investment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another service of INRAE Transfer, but we work quite separated. The EU project department is really working specifically on EU projects. So other colleagues do that.
Yeah. Okay. How many people are you?
So the company by itself, we are a little bit more than 120. It's always evolving. And for the EU project specifically, we are about 30 collaborators.
Because that was my question, or that was the question forming in my head, so if you have to support such a large organization that Louise shared with us, and you need a substantial amount of people. So you literally you are a fairly large, a middle-size grants consultancy company, I would say.
Yeah.
If you look at if you take 30 people, that would be a quite substantial grants consultancy company if you had reached that level of success.
So we within the team, so this 30 people team, we are all experts in EU project, and particularly Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe projects.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of us have a scientific background. Some colleagues have background in EU affairs or political science.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very interesting to have this variety of profiles. This is really adding value to the way we work, because usually we work as teams for supporting the project's building and the project management. So this variety of profiles is really a value added for the projects. We have adding different perspectives.
Yes, and the difference between a normal university project support office and this, normally in even if it's big university project support office, you would have what you call pre-grant people, a lot of them, where they sit and support the researchers with how they're supposed to write a work package description, or how they are supposed to deal with a budget, maybe, or stuff like this. But this is much more. This is a much more comprehensive 360 degrees team that you have, I guess, that would be able to, in principle, write a proposal, right?
Yeah. When we talk to the researchers from our consortia who are in other countries or other institutions that do not have a service like ours, we know what support they have. And we realize that, for example, in comparison with the French universities, we are able at INRAE Transfert to really work much in details to dig into the proposal and to offer really a day-to-day support. And it's not just reviewing the proposals, but it's really a project engineering service that goes very much into the details.
Yeah. What was my question? Do you also work for other organizations than INRAE? Do you pick up tasks from outside the campus?
This happened in the past on a very limited a number of occasions, and this is not happening any longer, or at least exceptionally, for a legal reason first. Because as we are an in-house consulting company, we need to work almost exclusively for INRAE.
Yeah.
And we also give you lots of work, so you don't have time for anybody else.
Exactly. The other reason, which is not legal but more moral, is that we need to commit ourselves for our home institution.
Yeah.
And we cannot tell our home institution, oh no, we can't work for you for now because we are busy with other universities or research institutes. We must be committed to our home institution. This is almost normal. So there are two very good reasons for working almost exclusively to INRAE.
Yeah, but that gives me another question pops up in this. Are you supposed to grow as an organizer, as a normal consultancy company would look at a growth? How can we expand as an organization? How can we take more in clients and so on? But it sounds like it's a little bit different.
Yeah, we have no targets in terms of what I would say,
financial
and business development,
profit.
Our objectives are really on the project, not on the business development. So that's also an interesting thing for us, because we can commit to the project. So
I think we would like to see INRAE Transfert grow, because that would mean we have so many European projects that they need to recruit new consultants and new project managers. So maybe it could be the growth we can imagine if we are doing more and more European projects. You can have a bigger team in few years.
Okay, so this, and I don't hope I'm stepping on something that you're not allowed to share with this on a public podcast. But how would that work? So let's say you say, look, we can see in this unit that we could use easily 10 more people to serve the university across the university. We can see that would make a difference. We would win more funding and so on. What would financially, so to say, in a normal organization, say, well, then we need to earn so and so much more money from clients to be able to cover those sales. But how does it work for you guys if you want to expand and say we need to open up 5 more positions? How does that work?
It works at the level of our top management
at the university,
at INRAE Transfert.
Okay, yeah.
With the company, and who needs approval from INRAE,
okay,
to hire new staff.
Okay,
because it's a huge commitment.
So there's also some politics here.
Yeah, I guess so. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm not part of this process, so I couldn't say into the details. But
Probably
actually,
Emanuele
we have a committee. So we have a managing director who reports to a committee, like a board of directors. And in this board of directors, it's only high-level INRAE top management staff. So they pilot our company as unique shareholder.
Yeah, and really, for us, actually, I can say, and maybe Karin will confirm it, but I think most of our researchers won't go on Horizon Europe project without INRAE transfer support. It had become quite crucial now. So clearly, it's a political stand to have a strong INRAE transfer subsidiary, and I think we can say that yes, in any case, we will support politically INRAE transfer and be sure that they are strong enough. Because we really need it, and I'm not sure we will be able to continue our mobilization in EU program without them.
Yeah, I think my best guess is that Emanuele, she's this is part of her work to say, look, this is what has happened since we did it like this with this organization. Look what is happening on the funds we get home. External funding for research. Look how it has lifted, but also even though we have this amount of proposals we didn't win, it created contacts that has moved our research by those connections we made anyways. Also industrially, you see the industrial partners we came in contact with through lost proposals. It has created this and this and this kind of collaboration. So showing the impact you would have from such an office to say, look, you can make the factor calculation yourself in the board, right? But you can see what has happened here by this investment is that we have done this. It's probably something that's part of her work, I would guess.
a project that is not funded, to my mind, is never a failure.
Exactly.
You have always something that at least lesson learned, but usually much more than that. You created or consolidated a network. You have generated new ideas, or you enriched your ideas with thanks to the collaboration, and you always get value from it.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so many levels. It's a matter of intense contact. It's a matter of having organizations on board you would never have a chance to be together with otherwise, or it would be more difficult. There's the exchange and one-on-one is free, right? That you sit in a deep talks about technology development, where you suddenly move into places that you wouldn't have managed to do yourself in your research team, and so on. So there's so many levels of added value.
Now we are talking about the partnership. In our domains, what is interesting is that we have these collaborations with academic partners, which is quite classical. We also have some with the industry, but we also have collaborations with other kind of partners that may be a little bit more atypical. Like, for example, NGOs, farmers or farmers organizations, associations, more and more regional authorities, sometimes also public organizations. So we have an increasing variety of the type of partners that may be involved in a project. This is mostly related to the multi-actor approach that we have in food and agriculture projects most of the times. So we need to involve and engage all stakeholders in the chain, not just as research subjects, but also as part of the research process, including the project ideation.
Yeah, that's what the Commission has pushed for more and more as each framework program is each number, so to say, that they keep making it more and more 360 degree, right? So you have, it's not just research, it's also citizens, like it's softer areas like this. What does it affect this research and so on, and this and this. Yeah.
So for example, in a past project, it was quite interesting to have around the table some researchers, also some extension services, those who are advising farmers on their business and techniques, but also a Polish farmer, a big Dutch farm, and also farming machinery industry from Switzerland.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting to have this variety of people around the table.
Yeah, definitely.
And they were all project beneficiaries, actually.
That's what the big projects they do. I am hovering a little because we need to go because I know it's a long fly-in, but it's we need to go through this for it to make sense to reach to the topic, because we're actually more or less there on trying to have a zoom in on your role in the chain from lab to it reaches to you and what you then do. So maybe I dotted down in the rundown that each of you share your role in the chain from lab to consultant, which will be a sort of generalized talk about how your roles they are, the different sets in the chain. And then we will, by that, slowly bridge into the concrete project that Karin is coordinating, because that's going to make it quite natural. So what happens? So let's start with the chain, the lab. Which one of you would that be you, Karin?
Yes.
Yeah. So share a little bit. Maybe you share a little bit with us what is happening there in the lab, because that's your work, you're a researcher. So how in your department, in your research team, maybe you open a little bit up for the listeners and me, how you work in your team with the research you do, and vis-a-vis the external funding and EU funding.
Okay, so maybe I will take the example of the project I'm coordinating as example. So I am researcher at INRAE for several years, and I am working in the economics department. So it's a small department at INRAE. And here we are located in several places, and I am located in Nantes, so in the west of France, and I am in the SMART unit, for those who know INRAE and the economic departments. So we work, I think, as every research department in university and research institute. We are several researchers working on different thematic. So I'm working on international trade, and we built for our team, our unit, a scientific scheme and scientific objectives that we have. Of course, we want to have excellent research and publication and program. So the idea is to, and with INRAE, let's say, incitations or several requests to join European projects, which is really an interesting tool to work and to exchange ideas and to work in collaboration with European researchers. So the idea is to see how our research programs that we planify for 5 or 10 years, maybe 5 to start, how it can be linked to the European research program. And in this is in this case that we saw that there was a call for a program and a project who match really closely with what we wanted to do in our unit. And when we saw that, we were identified by the European contact of our unit, linked with the Department of Louise, and we say, okay, here we have something to do, we have something to say on this topic, and we have to take it, or at least to participate in this project. So we had an internal meeting all together to see who was the researcher interested in joining the project. So we were 5 or 6 to be interested in and to be involved. And
I think I need to stop you a little bit there. I need to pause a little bit and go a little bit back. So first of all, how did you identify the call text? How did you do you screen those things yourself in the team? Do you check the relevant work programs? Do you have people, or do you yourself do that? How does that work?
Indeed, for each department, we have some European let's say researcher dedicated, or not dedicated, but who are Europe referent. I don't know how to say in English. So they are identified as interested in European stuff and topics. And then they meet every, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and especially when the topic are become public. And I think they read the topics and see where are the keywords and identify the keyword with the unit at INRAE and in different departments of INRAE, and especially economics. And then some sort of list of potential people from INRAE interested in this topic are prepared. And then the Europe referent contacts each researcher and say, maybe you could be interested with that. So sometimes it's totally not relevant, but sometimes it's really relevant, of course. And it's matched exactly with what we have in mind and what is our scientific program for the coming years. So it's an important work to say to researcher, take care, something is happening. You have to be somewhere in the landscape to be in this story or in this project.
And then we're going to take it a little bit further back.
Yes.
So now we look at the researcher or the research teams that you have in your department. Do any of these sometimes themselves, by motivation, say, could this be what we want to do here? Could we maybe look for EU funding for this? You understand? Because here you have someone coming to you and say, look, you have these and these calls within the research areas you have. And then you motivate them by sending them out to relevant teams and say, look, could this be interesting, or does it fit, and so on. That's coming from, that's top down, so to say. But then you also have bottom up, where you have researchers in your team saying, look, I would like us to investigate how, if there's funding somewhere, because what we need to do, it's too much for what we actually have resource-wise to be able to carry out what we would like to do with it. Could we look for external funding? Does that also happen?
Yes, sure. I think there's as many strategy as number of researchers. So I would say yes, it's possible. In our case, it was the issue is that the topic was clearly in line with what we wanted to do, so it was quite easy. And this is exactly what the DG Agri was expecting from researchers. So it's matched very well in a very good timing, let's say. So we were very lucky with that.
Yeah.
But I guess, yes, sometimes it's a long history of European projects working on international trade. So from the beginning of my career, we were involved in such programs where we let's say we have clear direction of where we wanted to go. So maybe it's specific to this disciplinary field, but it's in our case we go in the same direction with DG Agri or Trade and with our work, so we are quite lucky. Louise, I think you wanted to add something regarding this topic.
Yeah, Louise.
Maybe I can step in because actually the mission of a department is, among others, to capture the draft of the work program. So we are working with our ministries to look at the draft work program little by little as they are built. And we already do an analysis of these programs. And then, of course, we are working with the European representative Karin mentioned. So I didn't talk about it, but between my department and the research unit, there is a network of representatives from each of the 14 INRAE scientific division. And this European network inside INRAE is really fundamental because they are the go-between between our political analysis and what we are looking at with the European Commission and the ministries and so on, and the research team who are looking for funding. So that was just to try to put them in the whole mechanism.
Okay.
And to answer also to your question, we have all of cases, and we actually also have researchers who come to us and say, okay, I am at it's a moment in my career in which I want to do European project and I want to be a coordinator, or I have these two partners, we want to do something together, and we would like to know if there is a call we can use to develop a partnership and do something with European funding. So we have every cases, but I think the normal situation is more, we are looking at the draft, we are analyze it, we give them to the scientific department with already a first look, INRAE look. They have a second look by each of the scientific departments. They give it to the right unit, and each unit look at it with its specific look. So I think it's
it's a very normal practice, and this is also why it's good in a podcast like this that there's time to open things up, because then it is slowly trying to unfolding also. Now, what I have a question here. So many universities, especially on the public side, research. You have researchers that are super professional with EU funding. They know themselves where to go. They know exactly how to develop a work package description. They know exactly how to be engaged in all these kind of the proposal development processes and so on, and implementing the projects. And then you have the others. And that's not different for you than it is for any other research organizations. You have the ones that either they are indifferent to it, they feel like just doing what they can with the available funding they have for the research, or they are almost hostile towards approaching EU funding because they don't like the way the administrative part works, or they rather don't want to. And then you have the juniors. So the junior colleagues that they are a little wary as researchers. They are in the beginning of their research career, and they know that EU fund can help, but they are quite anxious around starting something like that next to the responsibilities they have as researchers. Might have like teachings, PhD students they have to attend to, and so on and so forth. Do you have an angle for that in do you work with these individuals, because that's psychology? It's a lot of human psychology and one-to-one. You're like working with anxieties or building people up, and so is that something that you have a view for in the organization, also at team level? I don't know who can maybe reply to that question. Is something you can recognize, Karin?
Yes, it's really not an easy decision to say, okay, I will work in a European project, or I will coordinate European project. And it's never so easy. Indeed, you in my case, I only know this case. In my case, I already participate in European project as a basic participant, and it was quite easy and quite nice. But now, as when INRAE told me, okay, we need a coordinator because it's a very important topic for us, and someone has to go, and every other researcher go one step back, and I was the only one to be on the first stage, and they told me, okay, it's you. I say, what? Sorry, what about? What did you say? Okay, it was quite not easy, but how I manage this? Indeed, I had, as Louise has already said, I knew about INRAE Transfert as we work in the same corridor in Nantes, so it's really easy. And so I asked to INRAE, okay, maybe I will go, but I have to be sure that INRAE Transfert will be committed to accompany me. So INRAE and the economic department had to ensure that INRAE had the money to engage INRAE Transfert to work with me. It was my previous condition before I signed, and it was okay. So I went in this adventure. It's not a 0-1 decision. It's come, let's say, little by little with specific guarantees, and especially the participation of INRAE Transfert. I don't know if, Louise, you want to add something?
Yeah, to stay on the profile of the researcher, we saw that, we'll see actually, because it's still the case, that it's still the same name, we know the researcher who want to do European projects, and we can see the ones who are always trying to get involved in this project. And it's quite a challenge. It will be a priority for next year, I think, really to try to go and look in the research unit for new profile, a younger researcher who decide one day Europe it's too complicated. I will never be involved in this kind of project. I prefer to do only national project because it's in French. I know the rules. It's not too much partners and so on. And we know we have to do this work because there is a lot of prejudice about European project and a lots of barriers they think they have to get involved in projects. So yeah, I think we for now we have kind of the same profile. Well, well, actually similar characteristic between the coordinator we have, but Johan know them better than me, so probably you will be able to complete.
Yeah, I have the same feeling that we have our usual suspects that coordinate and coordinate again, and this proves one thing, is that they got the value of the EU project and they understood how useful it was for their research, for their career, but beyond that, for the human adventure that is EU project. And the human dimension is really crucial. And I guess the EU funds us also for that, and for the European construction and the European feeling of the research and the teams, because actually we all are belonging to the same venture with this project, and we are constructing something together. So this means a lot in terms of human connection. And yeah, what happens as well is that coordinating a EU project is very positively considered in the careers of researchers, at least in France. So it's a strong booster of career for a researcher, and this might be a strong incentive for the youngsters. Maybe the less risky way to do is to convince a quite early stage researcher to start as a EU project participant, and then to reach a second level as a task leader or work package leader, to feel more acquainted with how a EU project works.
Yeah.
And then it's probably the safer way to then position yourself as a EU project coordinator.
To build them up. Thanks. I realize that I need to keep my nose a little bit in the track here too, because we need to get a solid talk about the project. So just shortly, now we talked a little bit about the lab. Louise and Johan, in the role here, the role in the chain, so to say. So I guess it sounds like, Louise, you share with me.
Yeah, well, actually, we have my mission is more at the early stage.
Yeah.
So it's really do all the political cooking at the beginning of the process. So try to do some lobbying on research priorities to have them in the work program, then analyze the work program and build it little by little, and give it to the research team. And then when people like Karin look at the work program and say, okay, this call is for us, we need to go, the information go back to us. And with its scientific department, because we never do that without the scientific heads, we look at the ideas of people like Karin. We look at how many partner, what kind of partner she or he want to have it in consortium and so on, just to be sure that if we decided really to give a strong support with INRAE transfer, it has a cost for INRAE, quite a huge cost. So we want to be sure that at least the idea of the project is on the good tracks. That means that the research team understands the topic, because even recently we have the case of researchers who really want to work on one part of the call because that's their scientific team, and they don't see all
That's a
all the
classic.
scope. Yes, and they say, yeah, of course we will take that into consideration, but we understand that they just
won't.
want to work. No, they want to work on one bullet of the call, and if we support them, we know it. They are going to lose their time. INRAE transfer is going to lose time. We could put on another project. So that's our mission at the European Affairs Department. It's to be sure they're on good tracks, and once it's okay, we have to say go or no go, and then it's INRAE transfer, and it's Johan who would take the project in charge.
Asking all the difficult questions and the level of expectations there. So
yeah, we should be able to be the bad cops sometimes and to say, okay, please think again, and we can talk later about your ideas, because for now it's not. It's gonna be not a disaster, but yes, it is gonna be lack of yeah.
Yeah, and then comes Johan.
Yeah. Then we follow with our more, I would say, operational intervention. But here it's also a question of balance, quite a subtle balance, because when analyzing the credibility of the researcher's idea, Louise and her team also want to ensure of a certain level of maturity of the ideas to make sure that the idea will be relevant to what's expected in the call for projects. And so the balance needs is there, because the maturity of the project needs to be high enough to be relevant and in line with the European Commission's expectation, but low enough to allow sufficient degrees of freedom to construct the project. And it happened too many times in the past that the researcher came with a plethoric number of academic partners with not a valid role for each of them, or with a definite role for each of them, but not leaving any room for flexibility or for organizing things. Maybe with the role defined without checking first what do we do together in the project. So not taking things in the order we would like to take them, or not enough room for non-academic partners for multi-research, multi-actor projects, for example. So here we have to find this balance between maturity and degrees of freedom for the future steps of the project construction. And this is not easy to find.
It sounds a lot like a consultancy work, where Louise, you sit where with the knowledge of what's going on in Brussels. You sit with the knowledge of what's going on. The program committee, you have early drafts. You can warn the right teams, team leads on, look, that something is going this way. Also, maybe taking feedback of where it's supposed to go. Give it to the program committee member from France. So you sort of at that level pre grant, and then you take on it's much closer to a normal consultancy work that you're doing there. You're saying, look, if you need to win this, then you can't just have a friends. It's not a friend party here. You're not invited everybody you want and then divide the money between you because you want them just because you know, because you know each other. Yeah,
we also have to act as a bad cop too.
Yeah.
Only bad cops.
It's like this bad cop, worst cop. You know, you need that if you need to win these kind of things, because it's extremely competitive. Thanks. Now let's move in, because then we don't have we need the time to talk about the project, right? I want to do that because that it's a concrete example of how you're working as an organization with these things. So the project, first of all, congratulations, of course, with winning it.
Thank you.
Now, Karin, what's it about?
So the project is a BAT model, so it means Better Agri-Food Trade Modeling for Policy Analysis.
And here I will be fading out of the first part of this double episode on INRAE's very interesting way of approaching EU funding. Second part of this double episode will be released next Monday. Here we will move into an actual concrete project that exemplifies INRAE's approach. You can look forward to that. Until then, you can check out my website, thegrant.eu, where you will find my full back catalogue of episodes. See you next week for the second half.